So Times Radio has reported that Sunak will announce a non-sector specific wage support scheme. What are we expecting him to say? That might be the case. I wonder if there might be more than one measure, though. We just don't know at this point.
We don't know at this point, but the messaging from the government has been slightly mixed. Matt Hancock's been out on the media rounds this morning suggesting it will actually be targeted support. But what it is a sign of how the virus has forced Sunak's hand. This has not been the short, sharp shock to the economy that Johnson and Sunak envisaged back in March. That time, if you remember, Johnson was talking about getting the virus under control within 3 months. And the furlough scheme and some of these business support programs were essentially designed for that situation. Furlough is designed to protect people's consumption from a short, sharp shock and get it back to normal as quickly as possible thereafter. That's fine if it's a 3 months problem. If we're still going through this virus after a year, which is very possible, then it becomes very expensive and they need to find a replacement. Hence why the talk about phasing out furlough and replacing it with something close to the German Kurzarbeit scheme. This is where some of the costs are met by employers as well. You'll also expect to see some extensions to the business loan programs. Again, these were programs that were due to be phased out in coming weeks and months. Those are going to have to run further. And it really is a sign of just how long this is going to go on for. The Treasury is very much now in crisis mode. And in that situation, it's very hard to make long-term plans about spending when you've still got to deal with the virus.
Ed, what does the Conservative Party, what does the base of the Conservative Party really think about these Keynesian debt-fueled spending plans?
Short answer, I think they recognise there's a threat to the economy here, and Sunak's have actually pretty widespread backing within the party for his measures. I think he's one of the few in the cabinet whose reputation has come out enhanced. I think if you look at the personal polling, it's still very high, and that's in part because he has been able to spend money and spend money quickly at this point. You've had things like Eat Out to help out, and the furlough scheme. Now, none of them have been perfect. There have been criticisms over the furlough scheme and how it neglected the self-employed in particular. But in general, they've been pretty supportive. I think it gets much more interesting in the longer term if this crisis goes on. I mean, Johnson's talking about the virus being here for another 6 months. If it goes on even longer than that, how sustainable is it? Now, on the market side, you can see the cost of borrowing for the countries at the lowest ever. So the increase in the national debt isn't such a problem. But politically, at some point, there will be most likely a snapback in the Conservative Party towards a balanced budget and towards at some point some very difficult decisions about taxes, which ones have to rise, and spending, which areas that have to be cut.
Ed, just weeks ago, we were, well, less than weeks actually, we were deep in conversation about the internal markets bill and the falling out within the Conservative Party between them and the Europeans around how the Brexit negotiations progress. And what has happened with that? Because there was one vote and it moved on to another stage, but is it now on the back burner?
Slightly. It's going to go through the Lords in a moment, and I think that's where you're going to see, you could well see a very serious rebellion. You've had people like Michael Howard, who of course spoke on Bloomberg television fairly recently, threatening to rebel on this. And don't forget, the government does not have a majority in the House of Lords. The Lords can't block the bill, but it can certainly delay it. The government's got till the end of the month to withdraw or amend the bill, or the EU is threatening legal action. We're going to have to see what the EU chooses to do. It's quite a slow and difficult process, but legally speaking, but politically, of course, the EU's got the big stick of, well, we're not going to give the UK a trade deal as long as this bill is outstanding. So it is slowly coming to a head early next month, where you will see either the bill has to be withdrawn or there has to be a compromise between the two, or there is no deal.